morning, everybody. We miss you all. We're here coming live to you from Spokane, Washington, Unity of Spokane, in an empty sanctuary with
Hey, I'm here.
Gary and, with Dr. Gary and me, and way at the back of the room, our wonderful AV tech guy, Caleb. So thank you for being here, Caleb, and welcome to all of you as you join us online. We are about transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. That's our mission, and we're continuing with that mission during this time. So as we join together, I'd like to start by affirming the truth as we know it, that there is only one presence and one power active in our lives, in the universe, God the good. And despite what our outer appearances may be telling us right now, this is the time for us to stay rooted in that knowing. So we're not trying to replicate a Sunday service here. You know, we are, this is a whole big experiment, and so we welcome you on board as part of that experiment, and we'll just see what happens. So it will unfold as we go along. We're going to be trying things and see how they work.
So,
and
sweetie, so the cameras are there or there, not the webcam.
Okay, I'm talking to the wrong camera.
We're still learning how to use all the technology.
That's funny. Okay, thank you for that. So hello, now I'm actually looking at you all. So we have a song that our wonderful music directors, Sean and Tani Wright, have sent to us a video of them, and we will be using that music between the meditation and the talk. And when we're playing it, I want to invite all of us to sing our hearts out wherever we find ourselves, and even get up and dance if that works for you. So following the service, we are going to have a Zoom meeting for fellowship, and Gary is going to talk more about that, so I'll give you more of those details. So we want to begin by actually going through an update, a center update, as we give you an update of all the things that are happening in our current situation.
Right. So from time to time, we'll be giving you information that's talking about what's arising, what our circumstances are, to give you a sense of what's going on, so that you can align with our efforts to make sure we're all staying connected. So I just want to mention that the reason why we've shifted to this 10 o'clock hour is because we're wanting to condition our community to move towards what we're going to be after Easter. I had intended to begin having a different kind of Sunday morning experience, beginning with our contemplative service at 8:45 to 9:30, and then at 10 o'clock having our primary worship gathering. And so we're just wanting to let you know that that's the reason why we shifted to 10 o'clock, and also after our talk we'll have our Zoom meet and greet that'll extend our service and the experience well into the 11 o'clock hour, likely. And should there be some situation that arises where we're unable to travel here to the center and utilize our live streaming equipment, we'll conspire with Caleb to Zoom or to otherwise live stream Facebook Live. We'll be in a constant effort to make sure that we stay connected, and we have a lot of different ideas to share with you about what are the possibilities that we can leverage given our current situation, especially as we consider all of the ways in which technology can keep us connected and together.
Yes, and so to that end, you're going to want to watch your e-news update that comes every week. We will be providing more and more information. And so if you have not signed up yet for the e-news update, please go to the website and sign up to receive this e-newsletter. It will have important information for you every week.
So what's the website again?
Well, you're all on it right now probably, but unityspokane.org, and sign up to get our newsletters. Another thing that's happening is we're setting up wellness calls for each of our members in our congregation. And these will happen through our chaplain team, our board members, and our staff members. We'll all be calling certain people every couple of weeks just to check in, make sure you're doing okay, see if you have any prayer requests, any prayer needs that we can pass along to our prayer team, who will be fervently continuing with their prayer during this whole time. If you are a community member or a governing member, expect a call within the next couple of weeks. And if you do not receive one and you're a member, please let us know by contacting me at drjane@unityspokane.org, and we will get you set up. If you are not a member and would like to receive these calls also, please email me so that we can get you on the list. We're hoping to keep our community as connected and engaged and supported as we can during this time of physical distancing. So know that our hearts and our prayers are with you in a big way, that we are really wanting to support you in the best way that we can. We're trying to set things up so that we can make sure that happens. And so, Gary, you have some more?
Sure. So what I'm wanting to share is that in our efforts to try to align with what Governor Inslee has invited us all to subject ourselves to and to really work with the situation, all of our staff are working remotely from home, and it is our commitment to our staff, if we can at all possible, if it's all at all possible, we continue to pay them the hours that we promised them. Everyone's part-time, and yet at the same time we recognize that not having a Sunday worship service means that we don't have a community giving experience where we take in love offerings and donations that live in addition to those of you who are already participating in our automatic giving process. So consequently, not having a service means that we don't collect between $1,500 and $2,500 each month, or each Sunday, I should say, which is what we need to contribute towards managing our monthly expenses, which can be $25,000. And so we need to invite everyone who has the means, who can participate in helping us with this situation, so that we ensure our staff's security in their work and our capacity to manage our financial obligations. And so if you're not already enrolled in our Tithely app, our Tithely giving program, it's a very easy way to just set up your own automatic giving and decide how much you want to share each month and make it automatic, and that way we don't run into any challenges, additional challenges associated with what's going on. And while we don't imagine this happening forever, we do see that this could have a significant impact on the well-being of our ministry if we don't kind of all step up into being in the question, well, what can I do, especially in these times, that can make the difference? And so if you're already involved in an automatic giving program, we invite you to consider helping us out, especially in these times, with something extra, because the folks who tend to give on Sunday aren't necessarily those who have the means by which they are inclined to make their gift automatic. So we're all in this together. We just want you all to kind of help us out as you're able. And then the last thing I'm going to share is our Zoom meet and greet. And so on the screen now, as you can see, here's the Zoom URL. And if you can copy this down or find it, the URL in our chat, either in the live stream chat or on the Facebook chat, to go ahead and click on this link and have ready the Zoom program. I've already got the Zoom account open, and you can log on anytime during this broadcast. But we'll take a few moments following the live streaming to make sure everybody can once again understand that we're going to be meeting with the Zoom experience, and I'll explain more about the logistics of that as we get closer to the conclusion of our service. But with that said, I think it's time for us to begin our meditation experience.
So I want to invite you to get yourself a cup of coffee or tea and get settled in. And also, you'll need a piece of paper and a pen for part of what Gary will be doing in the talk. And so if you want to gather those things up, this is our time to join together in meditation and prayer, and especially now when we find ourselves geographically apart, physically apart. The truth is that even though we aren't physically together, we are connected at the depths of our being, and this is the time for us to really go to that place, go to the source, go to the deeper connection within us, and feel that among all of us. We're all in this together, as Gary said. And so this is our time to support one another. And so let's take a moment and just get settled in our seats and relax into the chair wherever we find ourselves. Feel it supporting you as we release all of the activity of the day so far. We let go of anything that is on our minds, any fears, worries, thoughts. We can pick it all up later if we choose, but right now, we just gently set it aside as we know the truth together, that there is only one life that is living through and as each one of us. That we are divinely connected to that source, divinely connected to each of our brothers and sisters, all beings. The web of life, the interconnected web of life is the truth. It is reality. And while that has been utilized in some ways to create fear, to stay apart, to don't be around people, we can also go deeper and utilize this truth to bring healing, to bring understanding, to bring compassion. This is our time. This could be our finest hour. We have been saying these words forever, that there's only oneness, that each one of us is connected to that source. But here's our time to live it, to dig deeper, to go to that place within us where we commune with the higher self, the greater mind, divine mind. We open the portal through the heart. And so, I invite you to just gently put your hands on your heart and know that all of us that are joining together online are all touching our hearts right now. And as we do, we activate a feeling of gratitude. So I invite you to think about someone or something that you deeply appreciate. It could be a beloved partner, a child, a grandparent. It could be a pet that you love deeply. It could be a cherished memory or a place of beauty. Whatever you choose something that activates the feeling. It's in the feeling of it. It's in the intensity that we can create and sustain that begins to create a new field of compassion and caring and kindness. It is the opening through which each one of us enters that field. And so feel it in your heart. Feel that feeling of gratitude be activated as it warms your heart. Just sense that whole area in your chest warming in gratitude. And now let it expand beyond your heart. Let it fill your body. Just notice all the cells in your body coming to life, invigorated. through this healing vibration of gratitude and appreciation. And let that feeling radiate from within you as we intensify our gratitude. And it moves beyond our bodies. Just feel that energetic field around you coming into alignment with this vibration of gratitude. Michael Brown calls gratitude the fragrance of the present moment. And it is because when we become present and allow our hearts to open, gratitude is the natural response. And now let that gratitude expand even beyond your body, the room you find yourself in, the walls of your home, or wherever you are. Just see it ballooning out, joining with other hearts. Creating a field of compassion as we give thanks for this healing power, as we know the truth that all of us are in this together, that we are one human race, that compassion and kindness are the way through which we heal this. Feel your divine connection with all those who are in our congregation and beyond, who are tuning in today, those who are not able to tune in today. Just see them in your mind's eye as you see this gratitude field expanding and including all of our loved ones and friends, all of our strangers and acquaintances, all those in power, all those who are in the medical field, who are working so tirelessly, the grocery store clerks, all those in our world. And we give this gift to the human race. So I invite you, we're just going to take a moment in the silence as we continue to breathe into our hearts and let that feeling grow even stronger and radiate it from within. Thank you, Blessed Spirit, for the truth that sets us free, that our power lies within, that each one of us can choose to be the presence of gratitude and compassion and peace and kindness in this time. And we send this forth to bless the world. And so it is. Amen. Now we're going to play some music.
All right.
I relapse into the healing.
Yes, Caleb? Yes. Okay, I'm on. Great. Well, so my talk is titled Moving from WTF to OMG. And so I just want to begin with a sense of acknowledging that what's going on in the world can have a kind of impact on us that really rocks us to the depths of our being, even to the point where we're actually having to recreate our whole sense of identity. Who are we? Who am I in the context of all the things that are happening that are seemingly defining me by virtue of what's happening in the outer? And so today I'm interested in really working with this dynamic of some aspects of our life is like shock and awe and just really moves us into a kind of reactive place, but yet there is an important recognition that until we shift and move into a place of really empowerment and really owning our capacity to be a presence unto what is happening in our world and in our own personal life experience, that's where we can have a handle on being able to manage what's going on in these times. And so as we deal with WTF, which Jane tells me means weathering the fear, and and as we move into a place of getting to really knowing our own worth and knowing what is capable of coming forth when we shift into a greater consciousness, we can really get into that place of, oh my God, that there's something that's an opportunity that's arising that enables us to be in a place of helping to midwife that which is seeking to be birthed, as well as to be in the recognition that we have to hospice aspects of what has been our sense of identity, our sense of what is. We have to begin to let go and open ourselves to a deeper sense of what reality is. And so I'm wanting us to consider that part of the challenge is to shift away from our attention and awareness being so embedded in what's happening in the outer to almost to the neglect of what we can develop within ourselves that lives in the context of who we are as source unto our own life. In other words, how can we bring this dimension of ourself that is not of this world, that is in it but not of it, to really make a difference, and not only for our own peace of mind, but it contribute to the morphogenic field that is seeking to awaken humanity. So I'm going to begin. This talk is having to live stream now and having this be a virtual talk offers me an opportunity to be more in a trainer role in some respects, so that I can impart information that is enabling us to, with understanding and with greater insight, begin to develop capacities and capabilities that enable us to be with what's happening out of greater utility and capacity to be centered and peaceful. So here's a video from David Lynch, who is going to be talking about consciousness.
If you have a golf ball size consciousness, when you read a book, you'll have a golf ball size understanding. When you look out, a golf ball size awareness. And when you wake up in the morning, a golf ball size wakefulness. But if you could expand that consciousness, then you read the book, more understanding. You look out, more awareness. And when you wake up, more wakefulness. It's consciousness. And there's an ocean of pure, vibrant consciousness inside each one of us. And it's right at the source and base of mind, right at the source of thought, and it's also at the source of all matter. Pure consciousness is called by modern physics the unified field. It's at the base of all mind and all matter. And they now say, modern science says, all of matter, everything that is a thing, emerges from this field. And this field has qualities like bliss, intelligence, creativity, universal love, energy, peace. And it's not the intellectual understanding of this field, but the experiencing of it that does everything.
So here's the thing. We want to experience this field of infinite possibilities, this dimension of ourself that is not tethered to our past or tethered to any belief or system external to us, but rather to a greater intelligence, what Deepak Chopra calls meta-mind. And it's connected to a capacity to view our life in the context of source, in the context of foundational reality, as opposed to the effects of what's happening in life. So our effort is to enter into a conscious awareness, as opposed to living from our unconscious patterns. And so part of what our effort has been, my effort has been in my role of bringing forth these principles, is to differentiate the dynamics of our unconscious self from what we can bring to each moment when we're present, when we're awake, when we're conscious. And I've attempted to help us understand the dynamic of our unconscious self insofar as our self system. We have a body-mind process, and in this experience where we are somebody, someone, something, somewhere, and some time, we have circuits, these circuits of belief, of being, of doing, of having, of feeling, of perception. And so all these ways in which our conscious mind, or at least the body-mind process, interacts with what is happening in our world is eclipsed by the dynamics of our unconscious self, i.e. our habits of being, our habits of doing, our habits of having, feeling, believing, and perceiving. All of these contribute to us living in an encapsulated self-system that is only interacting with the phenomenal external universe and the outer, in other words. And so when our outer life looks and feels against us, it triggers those circuits, and our whole beingness becomes beholden to the dynamics of what's happening in the outer, as opposed to us using our own conscious awareness and using these circuits to really further our intention to live from a higher place, from a dimension of ourself that's not tethered to our past. And you've heard me quote Dr. Joe before, that when we live or step outside of these circuits of our separate self or our unconscious self, and it's easily done by simply understanding it's a matter of taking our awareness off of our body, off of our life, off of what we own, off of the people that we know, taking our attentions off of the places we go and our concept of time. And the only thing that we have left then is pure consciousness. I mean, just be in that awareness for a moment when we're not necessarily connected to anything that reduces our infinite and eternal self to some body, someone, something, somewhere, and some time, as opposed to recognizing that the dimension of our conscious self lives as anybody, anything, anyone, anywhere, and any time. We can choose who we want to be with what's happening in our life because we're connected to a greater dimension, a greater reality. But unless we interact with that reality, we don't have access to the dimension of ourself that is here, that is a part of the evolutionary process that is seeking to bring us into a greater expression of our wholeness and worth, and therefore be a part of the transition team, what is here to make a difference. So towards this aim of really recognizing that consciousness gives us a capacity to eclipse the dynamic of our conditioned life, then we need to explore those leaders that are helping us use consciousness as a deep tool. So I'm wanting to focus now on the inspiring work of Dr. Deepak Chopra. Many of us are students of Dr. Chopra, but his latest book, MetaHuman, really encapsulates a kind of collective understanding that brings the quantum science and all the sciences and spirituality, as well as the traditions that have been long rooted in meditation and consciousness development. He has synthesized a way in which we can enter into a practice of really uncoupling from the dynamics of the outer that keep us modulated to the dynamics of anxiety, stress, fear, worry, concern, and the inability to be with these disruptions and the uncertainty without recognizing that it's there for us to use, as opposed to there to diminish us. So I'm going to be presenting a book study next month, a virtual book study likely on the metahuman, on the book, and we'll go into greater detail with respect to the principles he is conveying. But suffice to say that he wants to have us understand the difference between a virtual reality, a reality that's created by our living in the sense of separation and the systems and the institutions that we create based upon fear and separation and the need to control what's happening and to subdue the environment. All of these dynamics of our human conditioning are now working against us, and so he is wanting us to understand that we can access a different dimension of consciousness that helps us override the circuitry that has created these dynamics, this insanity, as he calls it, in this world. And so I'm going to share a movie. It's about a 3.5, 4-minute long movie where Deepak is being interviewed, and he's talking specifically about the traits or the aspects of meta-reality. And then I'm going to kind of recap the video a bit, and then we're going to participate in taking an inventory, a survey that can help us kind of look to see where we are in our own relationship with the aspects of life that are either pulling us into a greater expression of this meta dimension of ourselves beyond our human nature, or we're still tethered and therefore grounded in a more conventional way of looking at ourselves in the context of our living in separation. Okay, so here's the movie. Sit back and relax. Go ahead and refresh your tea, and let's enjoy this movie together, and then we'll talk about it.
To be a metahuman, to live in a meta-reality, means a sense of being. Is that how you would define it?
A sense of being, and also going to the source of all knowing and experience. So what right now you're experiencing is knowing and experience. What's the source of this? So what's the source of thought? What's the source of perception? What's the source of imagination? What's the source of creativity, insight, higher calling? What is the source of every mode of knowing and experience that we call everyday reality?
How do you get to the source of that?
You start with the source. You know, the source is the beginning point. As T.S. Eliot said, we shall not cease from exploration. And the end of our exploring, we arrive where we started from and know the place for the first time. Just think of, let's say, think of the Empire State Building right now.
Sure.
You see an image, right?
I could,
How
yes.
did you do that? Okay, and where is the image? The image is not in the brain. The image has no location. Now feel love for your mother. Just feel it right now. Where is that love being experienced? Not in space-time. Okay, so every experience that we have actually is not in space or time, and the experiencer itself is not in space-time.
So it's transcendent of space-time, which is labels of this limited reality. So what is the source? Then if you say, let's go to the source of it all, what is that source?
The source is you.
Yeah, but
Before you
that's
become
not it.
Alan, before you can say, I am Alan,
Yeah.
it's I am. So, you know, when Moses asked the burning bush, God, what is your name? God says, I am that I am, right? When in the New Testament, Jesus says, before Abraham was, I am. So Abraham is a person, and there's no such thing as a person. A person is a process in infinite being. If you say, I'm a person, which one? You've been so many persons throughout this lifetime.
Yeah.
So the person is a verb, it's not a noun. In fact, there are no nouns in the universe, there are only verbs. There are processes in you that we call I am before I become time-bound. The timeless cannot be compromised by its time-bound experiences. Meta-reality is infinite possibilities every moment, infinite creativity every moment, synchronicity or non-local correlation every moment, surrender to uncertainty every moment, harnessing the power of attention, intention, insight, intuition, imagination, creativity, vision, and higher calling every moment, and transcendence and living from the source.
That's a new reality. Right, but the steps to creating that is what? There's people listening. Maybe they're not even aware of awareness.
You have to know who you are, and you have to know, why do you want to know who you are? Who you are is absolute existence. Why do you want to know that? Because you have to wake up within yourself to the most fundamental reality. What is your purpose in existence? What is your calling? What are you grateful for? When you start asking these questions, then reality unravels.
Let's go out there.
Get over the superstition of matter. That's it. Once you get over the superstition of matter, you'll discover reality.
I find meditation is the best for that, when your body disappears and all you are is consciousness.
You're a formless being experiencing the entire universe as form and phenomena. You are not your body. Your body is part of the experience you're having. Your mind, body, and the world that you experience are projections of consciousness.
Okay, so here we have some insight into our effort. Our effort is to differentiate ourselves from the outer experience of what's happening. In other words, we are not what we have. We are not our bodies. We're not our thoughts. We're not our beliefs. We have those things, but they're not who we are. There are processes within beingness. And so if we're in the consciousness of separation, then we live in the consciousness where our entire self system creates a half full experience. The glass is always half empty experience. But when we live in the context of our infinite self, then we bring to the elements of what's happening in the outer, recognizing that the material world is an effect as opposed to cause. We can begin to initiate dimensions of ourself that are either immune to the negative modulations of the external world, or are an influence that in turn modulates the world to a greater capacity for compassion, for love, for generosity, to live in the experience of our oneness and our interdependency with all of life. All of these are dimensions of ourself that we can have access to when we disentangle our attention and awareness from the conditions that are evoking feelings that keep us connected to worry or stress, or generate the hormones of stress, so our body's internal chemistry is always on edge. So, with that said, I'm wanting now to introduce the instrument that Deepak has helped create to help us kind of take an assessment with respect to where we are in developing these qualities that help us live independent of the outer as being the source of what informs us with respect to how we are, whether or not we're okay or not. So I'm wanting to talk now about what he describes as the non-dual embodiment thematic inventory, or the NETI, which is an instrument that was created to help measure where people are in the effort of evolving towards out of virtual reality into meta-reality. In other words, a reality that begins in the consciousness as source. And so it looks at a scale of between 20 to 100 and assesses how people rank themselves with respect to qualities that are considered spiritual, psychological, or moral. And they include the following list. So it's compassion, resilience, propensity to surrender, interest in truth, lack of defensiveness, gratitude, capacity to tolerate cognitive dissidence, a tolerance for emotional discomfort, humility, and authenticity. Now, I don't know about you, but I would welcome all of those as being my innate superpowers to bring into any given life experience. But as we consider all of these qualities or these traits, and as we consider them as meta-human, in other words, they enable us to live beyond our conditioned self, then we need to kind of look at where we are within our capacity to demonstrate these traits. And so I'm going to invite you now to grab that piece of paper that Jane mentioned, that you're going to be just simply writing down a score for each of these 20 questions that I'm going to be taking you through. And I know this is a kind of didactic aspect of the service, but let's get to the end of the survey and then begin to look at its value and see how it lives in the context of our movement towards developing a dimension of ourself that is not tethered to the conditions of the outer world. And so you'll be asked on each question to identify how it is for you. So the answers are 1, never; 2, rarely; 3, sometimes; 4, most of the time; and 5, all of the time. And what you'll find in these questions is that for the most part, you'll be answering sometimes or most of the times or probably rarely. It's not uncommon for there to be no one who says never, and many never say all of the time. So anyway, go ahead and keep track of your score, and know that the numbers of these questions, the answers are different in questions 4, 8, 14, and 16. I'll mention that to you as we go. Okay, you got your pen and paper ready. You can just write these down as you go. Number 1, here's the first question. So, the first question being, I'm going to have to look at this, an inner contentment that is not contingent or dependent upon circumstances, objects, or actions of other people. So, if you have an inner contentment that's not contingent upon or dependent upon what's happening in the outer, then what is the score? Do you have this? Have you never had this, or rarely, sometimes, most of the time, or all the time? So go ahead and give yourself a score. All right, question number 2. Let's just go ahead and get this. Accepting, not struggling with whatever experience I may be having. So the idea here is you're going to see where are you with respect to being present to what's happening in your life without pushing it away or having to have it be a certain way. So 1 is never, 2 is rarely, 3 is sometimes, 4 is most of the time, and 5 is all of the time. Okay, we're going to move a little faster now, and I'm going to go ahead and step here where I can see this. Number 3 is an interest in clearly seeing the reality or truth about myself, the world, and others, rather than feeling a particular way. So if this is something that is important to you, and most of the time, you're number 4. If it's not a big deal, then maybe it's rarely number 2. All right, number 4, question number 4, a sense that I am protecting or defending a self-image concept I hold about myself. Now, the answers are reversed, so the numbers are just different. So if it's never, then you give yourself a 5. If it's rarely, give yourself a 4, and so on and so forth. Question number 5. Deeply living appreciation for everyone and everything I encounter in my life. Okay, so that's obviously a typo there. So if you're in deep appreciation for everyone and everything that's happening in your life, go ahead and respond to the appropriate number in this question. Question number 6, understanding that there is ultimately no separation between what I call myself and the whole of existence. Okay, so if this is something that you're really grounded in, maybe this is most of the time. And so it'll be a number 4 for you. Otherwise, go ahead and reply as it fits. Question number 7 is feeling deeply at ease wherever I am or whatever situation or circumstance I might find myself. So perhaps this is how you are sometimes or rarely, or perhaps this is just your way of being all the time. Just go ahead and reply appropriately. Question number 8 is a sense that my actions in life are motivated by fear or distrust. This is reversed now, and so 5 is never, 4 is rarely, and so on and so forth. Answer appropriately. And then number 9 is conscious awareness of my non-separation from what is essential oneness with a transcendent reality, source, or higher power. So you live in a conscious awareness. So what's your reply? Number 10, not being personally invested in or attached to my own ideas and concepts. Okay, be honest now. What number is it? Go ahead and record your answer. Question number 11, unwavering awareness of a stillness, quietness, even in the midst of movement and noise. So are you aware of that center, that place, in the midst of all the busyness that's going on around you? Question number 12. Acting with, assuming a role or identity based on my own or others' expectations. So how easy are you kind of living in conformity in your life and with respect to others? Number 13, a sense of imminence, freedom, and possibility in my movement to moment experience, in my moment-to-moment experience. Do you feel that sense of freedom and possibilities unfolding in each moment? Number 14, a desire to be understood by others. Okay, here the answers are reversed, so go ahead. If that's not something that happens for you much, then it's never mostly. Oh, okay, figure that one out. Okay, number 15, concern or discomfort about either the past or the future. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Let's go on to number 16, and a sense of fear or anxiety that inhibits my actions. Okay, that's something that's reversed too, so pay attention to that order. And then now we're moving on to question 17, a feeling of profound aliveness and vitality. If that's something you feel all the time, you're number 5. Number 18 is acting without a desire to change anybody or anything. Okay, here's another one to be honest about. What's your reply on this one? Now moving to question 19, feelings of gratitude and or open curiosity about all experiences. Go ahead and reply with respect to what's true for you. And then the final question is a sense of flawlessness and beauty of everything and everyone just as they are. And so if you have this sense of the flawlessness and beauty of everything just as they are, go ahead and reply to that as it's appropriate. All right, so take a moment now and add up your score. And so if you've got mostly 3s and 4s, that makes it easy. If you've got some 5s and 4s, that makes it easy. Go ahead and come up with your total. And so your total score, so if you've never experienced metahuman awareness, then your score will be 20 because you'd answer never to all of those. If you live continuously in the metahuman awareness all the time, then your score would be 100. And then so to give you some context of where people are, so psychology grad students typically will be mid-range, average mean score of 52 points. Psychotherapists themselves will demonstrate 71 points, and those psychotherapists who self-report of being established in non-dual awareness will score 81.6 points as an average. And so just looking at your score, yes, Jane? Okay, so a couple of things. I can't post these because this is intellectual property. It comes out of the book. And so you'll have to acquire the book or otherwise get this information because it's intellectual property. But it's in the MetaHuman book. And in the book study, we'll be taking this inventory again in the beginning and at the end of our book study to see if there has been some shifts in that as well. All right, so I know this has been a big frog to swallow with respect to taking in all this information and really looking at some ways in which we can begin to open up an understanding of what needs to be developed or practiced or lived into that constitute our capacity to come from this dimension of ourself that Deepak Chopra describes as metahuman or metamind. And so I'm going to finish now. I'm going to invite Jane to come up, and I'm going to invite her to just make a few comments about taking this all to heart. And then we'll get into our closing.
There I am. Welcome back, everyone. I'll welcome me back to everyone. You've all been here the whole time. Another thing you can do is watch this video again on the website. It'll be archived, and you could pause it. You could go through those questions and pause. So that's another way you can do it. There were 3 things when I was listening to Dr. Chopra speak that I made note of. Actually, they're on the Facebook Live page in the comments, but I wanted to just mention those things. First one was the very first question, how do we get to source? And he says, you start there. And to me, this is our work, is to be able to go directly to source within us and come from that place. And it's kind of a difficult kind of, are we praying, are we going to source? Are we coming from source? And it's like a both and yes. It's going to that place within us where we feel the connection to that truth of who we are, and then expressing it out into the world. So it's, we're inlets and outlets of the divine. So that was the first one that I thought was really notable. How do we get there? Well, we come from there. We start there. The next one was that there are no nouns in the universe. Mm-hmm. And if you think about spirit, the question came up on the feed, but does that mean God is a verb? And I would say yes. And that'd be a great thing to explore. That when we think of something as a noun, as a being, and then we get to its beingness, it shifts it into a whole different realm. And it's time for us to really discover this truth of how to allow the beingness of God into creating something new in our life. And so and then the last one was, we need to get over the superstition of matter. And so I love the way he put that what we believe to be real, what the outer appearance is actually superstition. It's not real. It's what our senses are telling us, and yet it's not the truth. We know that everything is empty space, and yet, it's time for us to get beyond that. So those things, I think, are really notable for us to focus on as we are walking through these next weeks, that in the midst of all this change, in the midst of all the craziness that's just going on everywhere, that we're really, that's changing moment to moment. That's the other thing. It's going from 0 to 90, and it's so rapid, that we need to be centered in the truth of who we are and using that reality to make a difference in the world. And I believe it's our time. I believe it's time for us to start living the truth that we know rather than just giving it lip service on Sundays. And so I'm taking that to heart. I'm really taking that to heart to see how can I take this deeper? How can I be the presence of peace and in a much more visceral, real way? How can I take my meditations deeper? If we think of this time apart as a Sabbath, as a long Sabbath, where we have the opportunity to really take our spiritual practice to a whole new level of depth, then we can utilize this time in such a way that we can start to help that shift happening in the world, a shift to a new paradigm of humanity's reality, that we want to see how we can show up as those spiritual beings having a human experience and truly make a difference in our world. So there you go. That's what I have to say about it.
All right. Okay, so now we're, this is a wrap up. So bear with us as we transition from our live stream Sunday service or Sunday experience to our meet and greet. So here's the URL again, and let me just say to you that if you've never used Zoom before, you can just type into your browser this URL, and it will take you to another screen that will invite you to download the Zoom app onto your device. You can use your smartphone, your tablet, or your PC or laptop to be able to log on. If you have a webcam associated with those things, we can see you. Whenever you log on, it's most common experience is for people not knowing how to turn on their camera or turn on their microphone or turn off your microphone. So if you are familiar with how to use Zoom, when you log in, make sure you mute yourself and turn on your camera so that we can see that you're there. If you're new to Zoom and you're in a struggle of figuring this out, we'll just let us know, and we'll have tutorials with respect to giving more people information. We'll send out in our midweek constant contact more instruction as to how to utilize the Zoom. So we're not quite done yet. We're going to end with a video. And I'll mention it in just a second. But before we do shift into the next thing, I just want to remind everyone that we're highly dependent now upon our community stepping up and really giving into this effort to make sure that we manage our operational expenses, even though no one is here for us to participate in the collection part. And so the donate button on our website goes right to the Tithely app, and you can go ahead and set up your automatic donation there, or provide a one-time donation. If you're already in the Tithely app or your bill pay, you can adjust that as you are so guided.
So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for joining us. And as we're learning more and more, we'll be changing on the fly. And so this is just a giant experiment that we're all working with. I want to thank Sean and Tani for sending us that fabulous song. It was the perfect song, and I hope some of you were singing and dancing at home. But thank you for that. Thanks to Caleb for bravely being back in that sound booth and helping to make this happen. And thank you to everyone for your flexibility, and the staff. I want to thank our staff for their working remotely and doing all that they can to continue to make this place, a welcoming place for all of us to do our spiritual work. And so let's just stay in that place of gratitude to all of us as we walk through this.
So I'm going to start the last video. We'll end with the video, and then we'll shift to the Zoom platform. And so there's going to be, after the video, there may be a minute or two of adjusting to make sure that we get everything working the way we'd like. There's already a community of folks logging on right now. That's great. Welcome. And just so you know that this movie that I'm sharing is called a Mind Movie, and it was created by one of Dr. Joe's team leaders. And it's about how to be in the context of what we've been talking about, living from this meta dimension of ourself with the coronavirus, and what we can affirm and know as our truth that enables us to kind of create a virtual immune system, so to speak, that helps us contribute positively to the morphogenic field that's unfolding. So here's the movie, and we'll be changing scenes in just a minute. Turn on your camera too. You'll need to turn on your camera too.
Yeah, I know. Oh, what happened?
Hang on a second, let me put it back. If you can hear us, yes, wave. Okay, you can hear us. Awesome. Test 1, 2. Okay, how about you, Jane? Can you talk?
Yes, I
Okay,
can talk,
There you go.
but I
Okay.
just lost the feed.
What'd you lose?
I don't know, suddenly got kicked off. I'll come back in.
No, you're in. You're here. You're just not looking at the right screen.
Okay, oh, there I am.